Daredevil is one of the most fascinating characters in all of Marvel. He's a lawyer by day and a vigilante by night. Not only that, but he has an extremely multi-dimensionally written moral conflict internally, and wait, we all know this. Literally everyone that clicked on this video knows this. What we don't know is what the future holds for Daredevil. Sure, he's been introduced as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, and sure, he's been in 2 episodes of She-Hulk, and sure, he's already been confirmed to be an Echo, but do we really know what to expect in Daredevil Born Again? In order for Marvel to succeed when it comes to Daredevil, the first thing they need to do is successfully bring him back into the universe. The last time Daredevil aired as his own show was in 2018, and since then, fans have been speculating whether he's coming back or not. In July of 2022, Daredevil actually got its own confirmed 18-episode series coming soon, and this created a lot of hype. After seeing Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, we already knew he was coming back, and after Kingpin returned in Hawkeye, we already knew he was coming back as well. Most recently, Daredevil was in 2 episodes of She-Hulk, and while the show wasn't that great, he was definitely the better part of it. Although we've barely seen anything about Daredevil since 2018, Marvel has subtly been reintroducing characters and reintroducing Daredevil in different projects. In She-Hulk, they teased us by almost giving us a very cool hallway scene to replicate the seasons 1, 2, and 3 hallway scenes from Daredevil, but didn't show us because that's exactly what we wanted to see. In Hawkeye, we were finally reintroduced to Kingpin as the big bad, and also introduced to his adopted daughter, Maya, aka Echo. Daredevil is already confirmed to be an Echo as well as Kingpin, and I think that Echo will directly lead into Daredevil Born Again. And I think that the climax of all of these storylines will eventually be in Daredevil. That's why there's going to be 18 episodes, because they're going to be introducing a lot of characters. Unfortunately, Kingpin's introduction in Hawkeye was met with mixed reception, as many fans felt that he was completely different. They thought that he acted in a way that he would never act in, and this brings us to the resurrection of Daredevil. In order for it to be done correctly, all of these characters need to be introduced in a way which is enjoyable to the fans and does justice to the show itself. If any character is lacking in the show, they won't have the impact that Daredevil originally had. Kingpin was a perfect character in Daredevil, and in order to reintroduce us to this same Kingpin, we need to see that Kingpin in Daredevil Born Again. And not just Born Again, even before that, Kingpin needs to be nailed perfectly in Echo. If Marvel fails on any of these characters, from Karen to Foggy to Kingpin to Daredevil, the show won't be as good as it originally was. Personally, I believe that so far the resurrection of Daredevil has been done justice, but unfortunately the resurrection of Kingpin has not. Fortunately, we've only seen him in 2 episodes of Hawkeye so far, so the potential to make him a very good character in Echo is definitely there. Marvel just needs to deliver on the writing and make sure that the build-up to Daredevil Born Again is very good. I personally believe that Marvel hasn't messed anything up with Daredevil yet, and if they write the characters correctly, the first step of Daredevil Born Again will be completed. Now, after Daredevil Born Again begins, the most important thing will be the core and the foundation of Daredevil. And while many of you might be thinking that that's Matt Murdock, it's not. It's Foggy Nelson and Karen Page. One of the biggest questions that Marvel fans have about Daredevil Born Again is whether the side characters of the show are going to be returning. Not just Karen and Foggy, but people also wonder if Elektra will come back, if the Punisher will come back, if Bullseye will come back, as he was left on a cliffhanger in season 3. It's understandable if some of these characters can't return like Bullseye because they want to shed more light on Wilson Fisk, but characters like Foggy and Karen are the foundation of Daredevil, and Daredevil won't be the same show without them. Karen and Matt's relationship works as a 3-season slow burn, and we need to see what happens with them. Not only that, but the conflict act between Matt and Foggy's friendship has also come to an end, and now they have worked out their differences. It's almost necessary for us to see where Foggy and Matt's relationship will go now that everything has calmed down and they all know that he's Daredevil. Now Matt has accepted them into his family while also maintaining his identity, and one of his biggest internal struggles has always been whether to let people in or not. One question that I know a lot of people have is what's going to happen with the Punisher. Of course, we know that the Punisher did get his own spin-off, but that show was also canceled along with Daredevil, so are we going to see him again? The thing is, Jon Bernthal did say that he'd only return to play the Punisher if they made him a very dark character.
You know, look, as far as like going on in the future, it's a character that I really feel like I have sort of in my bones and in my heart. And what sort of happens in the future isn't about kind of whether they want to do it or not. Again, it's just about, if they do it, are we going to be able to get it right? Is it going to be dark enough? Is it going to be gritty enough? Are we going to give the fans and the folks that this character means so much to, are we going to give them what they deserve?
Okay, we've talked a lot about the side characters, so now let's really get into it. Let's talk about Daredevil. One of the biggest worries that I know the majority of the fan base has is the environment around Daredevil. Is he going to be funny? Is he going to be serious? Is he going to be dangerous? Is he going to be rated R? Or is he going to be a joke? I already know that a lot of the community is going to be split on this one area of Daredevil Born Again content. On the one side, there is many comic book fans that vouch that Daredevil can indeed be funny. Many written versions of Daredevil were very funny in the comics, and there was nothing wrong with that. On the other hand, there's a live action version of Daredevil who is considered to be far more serious, far more gory, and far more brutal. Many of Daredevil Born Again's audience is going to be Daredevil live action fans who are going to want to see this very dark side of him once again. People want him to be dark so badly that they've already made up their mind that the show is going to be bad because they think it's impossible for Marvel to be dark. I personally believe that Daredevil can be a little bit lighter. I think the show would still be very good, but I understand where the other side of the audience is coming from. The thing is, the MCU has never gone this dark, and when they're introducing characters like Daredevil, the Punisher, Deadpool, and more, sometimes the characters just have to be rated R. The environment of Daredevil will be one of the determining factors of whether people enjoy it or not, as no one wants to see the MCU level of bloodshed that we're so used to.
All that for a drop of blood.
Additionally, Daredevil in live action doesn't make jokes. He does in the comics, but he doesn't in live action. We did see a lighter version of him and She-Hulk, and Charlie Cox did himself say that he wouldn't mind playing a lighter version of Daredevil.
The sense is it's going to be a new beginning. It's going to be different. It's going to be tonally different. It's going to be new stories and new ideas.
I think my big worry is that if Charlie Cox is saying this and Daredevil was lighter in She-Hulk, then it's possible that Daredevil Born Again is a lighter show. We also need to keep in mind that while Daredevil himself can be lighter, characters like Kingpin can't. I mean, if we watch the same season 1, you already know that some of the things that Wilson Fisk did, especially to that Russian guy, is just unspeakable. And we already know that this level of gore is not going to be in the MCU version of Daredevil, but is it even going to come close? Now, up until this point in the show, I've talked about a couple factors that will directly impact the quality of Daredevil Born Again. The first factor was the build up to Daredevil itself. The second factor was the side characters. The third factor was the version of Daredevil that we are going to be seeing. Here's the problem with Daredevil Born Again. The stakes for this show are so high that they are simply unreachable. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still excited for Daredevil Born Again, and you might be wondering, Specular, what do you mean by that? Well, what I'm saying is potentially the biggest downside of Daredevil Born Again, and that is Daredevil's inevitable disappointment. The statement, "you can't please everyone," has never been more true. It is simply impossible for all of the expectations of Daredevil Born Again to be met, and the reason for this is because the bar for the original Daredevil show is so high that there's no way that anyone will ever reach it. Personally, I'm very excited for the show. I think that Kevin Feige knows the audience, he knows how badly people want Daredevil back into the MCU, and that's why he brought Daredevil back in the first place. He knows that Daredevil needs to be good, or they would be destroying a character that simply cannot be destroyed, and if he wasn't confident, he wouldn't bring Daredevil into the MCU. Regardless, the pressure for Marvel to deliver on this character is so incredibly high that if they fail, it would be absolutely terrible. Fans wouldn't just be divided, they would be distraught, they would be destroyed, and I mean, the original Daredevil show is the favorite show of many different comic book and live action fans, including myself. Daredevil is my favorite show, so I, more than anyone, want to see him come back and have a great run in the MCU, but I'm terrified that the expectations are so high that people will be disappointed no matter what. One of the biggest factors of a show is also the hype and audience around it. It's much easier to form opinions when there's all kinds of bias going on all around you. For example, the hype around WandaVision was absolutely unmatched because the hype around the first MCU TV show was insane. Everyone was theorizing about what's going to happen, and that made the experience for WandaVision so much more enjoyable. Compare that to now. Miss Marvel and She-Hulk got so much hate, and even though shows like Moon Knight and Loki were good, almost no one was talking about them compared to WandaVision. The positive connotation that Marvel once had is now gone. Now, it's all about pressure and delivering on Phase 5. People don't look at the MCU like it's a special project anymore. All of a sudden, people hear all the projects that are coming out in the future and think, oh my god, this is so much, not, oh my god, this is so exciting. And that leads us to the next and final part of this video, the stakes of Daredevil. So hypothetically, let's say that Daredevil Born Again is a very good MCU project. What's next? What's next for Daredevil after that? Is he going to get a season 2? Or is he going to be in Secret Wars? Or is he going to be in other MCU main screen projects? What happens if the show is good? The stakes just continue to rise even more. It's just if the season is good, the fans will have less pressure on Marvel to deliver on Daredevil, because they'll know that Daredevil was already pretty good and it can continue to be. On the contrary, if Daredevil Born Again is bad, Marvel could lose a giant audience. In other words, this show is the perfect presentation of the bare minimum. If the show is good, it will be the bare minimum. Anything below that will be a failure. This is like one of those posts you see on TikTok where one of the people in the couple buys the other like 6 sets of flowers every week and all the comments say bare minimum. That's literally what Daredevil Born Again is going to be. The last topic regarding the stakes of Daredevil is the pacing. Daredevil Born Again is going to be 18 episodes. While this is exciting, we do have to keep in mind that the only show that the MCU did justice with pacing is WandaVision. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had a rushed ending. Moon Knight had a rushed ending. Loki had a rushed ending. Hawkeye had a rushed ending. Miss Marvel and She-Hulk, they don't even count because they were just all over the place. And obviously, What If is an outlier as they are all self-contained stories within the episodes. Now you might be thinking, well, Daredevil is 18 episodes for that exact reason. They don't want to rush the third act of the stories. But this is my problem. If most shows have rushed endings and some are just all over the place, the problem isn't that Marvel doesn't know how to write a good show. The problem is that Marvel struggles with pacing more than anything. Keep in mind, we are doing a direct jump from a 6 to 9 episode format to an 18 episode format. That is a lot. Now, they could have easily made these episodes longer and made the episode count shorter, but they didn't do that. I mean, really think about it. 18 episodes is 17 cliffhangers, probably more because the MCU always leaves loose ends. Marvel has to seriously nail the pacing in Daredevil because pacing is something that they've always struggled with, and if they fail here, it'll be a big mistake. Regardless, I do know that Kevin Feige really respects the character of Daredevil, so I'm really hoping that he does do this character justice. At the end of the day, if anyone can do this character justice, it's him. So with that being said, the stakes will continue to rise for Daredevil Born Again, and all we can do is wait.